about it and why it's such a huge draw for audiences. And most of the audiences, I have to say, are probably the teenagers, but I myself, no, I just don't go for it. Scripted TV, that's it.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I feel like we're getting so saturated with reality shows that, you know, the scripted shows are at such a high level now that, you know, we really want to encourage more of that.
Exactly. So people, even if you have one episode or two episodes you don't like or where a storyline's going, keep watching so they don't go away.
Yeah, the standard is so high. I was at, there's this big event before the Golden Globes, the AFI luncheon for the American Film Institute, and it honors the top movies and TV shows of the year. And everyone is in the room, and, you know, you literally have everyone from George Clooney to Ben Affleck to Tom Hooper to Anne Hathaway. And it was incredible that the standard of the clips from the TV shows was as high, if not higher, than the clips from the movies. I mean, there's just some really fantastic shows out there, like Homeland, Modern Family. You know, they're amazing.
Yeah, those are one of my favorites too. With you being in production and you write and you're an actress, if you could come up with a show, what would you do for TV or film?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. I kind of love anything that involves James Bond, like skullduggery, tomfoolery. So I have that sense of humor. So I would love something like Stiletto Spy School or something, whether it was scripted or unscripted. You know, I love like investigating things, researching, and then, you know, putting plans into action and general hijinks. So something like
fun.
that would be right up my alley.
Now, would you star in that, or would you pick somebody?
No,
yeah, okay, good.
I would write it. I would star in it. I would Lena Dunham that up and down. Minus the nudity.
Oh, yeah.
Minus that.
Well, would you ever do nudity for anything, if it was for a cause that you believed in, like PETA or, you know, something like that?
Probably not. Just because the way we live in this day and age with the internet, everything is turned into something gratuitous. I mean, even the kind of comments that people make on your red carpet ensembles, it is amazing how little things can be objectified, and it's just not really my style. I never say never. I think that maybe if I felt like I was in the best shape ever, I'd want to show it off. But at the moment, you know, I definitely am more on the conservative side, so I'd probably say, no, that's what body doubles are for. And I would hire a Victoria's Secret model to do that for me, and I would take the credit.
There you go. Well, let's talk about the red carpet, because you have certainly graced that quite a bit, and I know that as part of hosting on the red carpet, that you have stories to tell. And without really, saying anything negative or anything, I mean, I'm sure there are some really funny stories as part of being on the red carpet and talking to, the enormous amount of people that you do.
Yeah.
What's one of the funniest stories that you've ever, experienced or encountered?
Oh gosh, from interviewing people, or from just what I've observed.
Well,
on the red carpet.
Whichever way you choose to answer.
Either or.
I mean, okay, so examples of two different things. I think couple of the funniest things that I observe are when you have, they'll remain nameless, but there's two male hosts that are, cream of the crop in terms of the entertainment news shows, and I always think it's kind of funny in a sick way when they go down. Part of our job as a host is to also wrangle the talent, and it's really competitive, especially on something like the Golden Globes or the Oscars or the Grammys. And I think it's always funny when, certain hosts who kind of feel their commodity onto themselves sometimes go down and into the fray to try and wrangle, and then they get shut down, because I know what that feels like, but I think I can take it a little better than some of the others who just look like mortified, but also like, don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, we all saw it with who was it? Was it Ryan Seacrest when he tried to get Angelina and Brad, and they just wouldn't stop, and it was like a shutdown. And I just saw it. I won't name who it was, but at the Globes on Sunday, I saw another host have the same experience with first with Jennifer Lawrence, and secondly with J-Lo, and it was just pretty funny.
Maybe it's a Jennifer thing.
Perhaps, although not in Angelina's case, but definitely there. And then I think just in terms of interviewing, oh gosh, some of the funnier things have happened during the sit-downs at the junket, I think, to the red carpet. Interviewing Robert Downey Jr. is always really interesting. You just never know how he's going to take something.
Yeah.
So I offered him these energy chews because a friend of mine is friends with Sting, who's friends with Robert, and so I heard he liked these particular energy chews, so I brought them for him, brown nosing it a little bit. And he just took them, and he was with Mark Ruffalo. He was paired with him. It was for the Avengers.
Oh, I love him too.
And just it was so sweet, and flung them all over the room, and he's like, "What is this product placement?" But joking because he's very sarcastic. And it's just those moments. It could go either way. It could be like, "Oh, that's so sweet, thank you," or he could just throw them at me, and it was the latter. So that was definitely pretty funny. And I've also had to say really awkward scripted lines sometimes in the intros in front of the talent, and that can be pretty funny too. Like I think with Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, I had to introduce them as it being the battle of the biceps, and the two of them are smirking like, what is this girl saying? You cannot have basically I think the moral to this whole story is you cannot really have much pride,
right? Yeah,
or
you
take
never
yourself
know
seriously at all in this job.
can never take it too seriously. That's true. Now, as part of interviewing guests, who have you been the most nervous around? Like when they came up and you knew you were going to be interviewing, even if you knew in advance. Or do you even get nervous? I guess it's a better question because you may not.
On the whole, no. But because I've been on both sides of the job, I don't tend to get nervous with actors. I'd be more nervous with someone like Bill Clinton or, different kinds of people than actors. But definitely recently when I had to interview Steven Spielberg and Daniel Day-Lewis, I wasn't nervous until they came on the carpet, and then just seeing them together, and they were walking together. So you never know if you're going to get someone by themselves or as a duo, and duos are always more difficult than one-on-ones. So when they came down, I have to say it was pretty intimidating, for sure. And the person who was standing next to me talking to them was Oprah, so I'm watching it, so it just made it a little worse. Yeah. But they were so lovely. I mean, I just adore both of them, and they couldn't be nicer. Often some of the ones you're intimidated to interview, like the Donald Sutherlands and the Robert De Niros, turn out to be really good interviews, as long as you don't ask them silly things.
Yeah, they're more on the serious side.
Yeah, but at the same time, they have, wonderful personalities, and they like to laugh as much as the next person. So it is your job to also bring out that personality, not make it so heavy, too.
Right. Now, Bill Clinton was there. Did you get to talk to him at all, even if it was off camera?
Funnily enough, Bill did not come and talk to me, no. I did see him, but
didn't he know who you were?
You think, unfortunately, there was about 20 men in black around him that would probably have shut that down.
Right.
So I've actually spoken to him and talked to him in the past, and he is so lovely and witty and couldn't be a nicer person to speak to.
He seems like it. He's like a lot of fun to talk to.
Yeah.
Especially not having to be the president and be as serious anymore. Of course, he has his causes, but to sit and hang out with, I think he would be a lot of fun.
Oh, definitely. I think I'd be scared to interview Madonna, actually. I don't know why. She's really I love Madonna, but she's quite intimidating. I've seen interviews before where she's shut people down if she has not liked the line of questioning, and sometimes you just have to ask what your network wants you to ask. So you always have to balance, you walk that tightrope.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. How do you come up with your questions before each event? Do you get help from everybody, or do you do pretty much your own?
It's a combination. It depends on the outlet I'm hosting for. Some outlets script the questions, and you ask them verbatim because they have a particular package and segment in mind. So they already know kind of the bites they want from the talent. Sometimes it's more loose, and they like you to kind of come up with them by yourself. I think live tends to be more loose. You're given suggestions and help with the research, but, it's a more spur-of-the-moment kind of thing. So it truly just depends on the circumstance and the producer.
And that's pretty much what we do, Dawn and I. We do our research, but we also just go by whatever our guest is talking about and go on from there. So
yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just take it in an ad hoc basis.
Yeah.
I certainly walked in. I'm sure you weren't planning to ask about nudity before I got on the line,
yeah.
But there you go.
No.
It's whatever takes your interest in the moment.
I know, so very true. Now, you've also, hosted on the red carpet, the American Music Awards, and what is that like? I mean, who is probably the most interesting interview that you've done in that genre?
Oh, in music. Oh, gosh. I really liked interviewing Janet Jackson. I really liked, and that actually wasn't at the American Music Awards. It was in Cannes. I thought she was really just a lovely person to speak with. I think when you interview the music acts, one of my most fun interviews was with 50 Cent, because I think that just the contrast between me, who's like tea and crumpets and wearing Argyle, and like 50 Cent, who's got bullet holes, was pretty funny. And it turns out he's quite he's kind of the dapper gentleman in a lot of ways. So I interviewed him at Sundance once, and it was really fun. I think in general the music acts, they tend to have a lot of fun with the interviews. They have such a stage presence that they're more comfortable with it often. They're used to being live. They're used to interacting with an audience, whereas some of the actors can be quite shy, and you really have to work on making them feel comfortable so that they can show their personality. Yeah,
and speaking of shy, I read that you were a very shy person, and look at what you're doing. How did you overcome that?
I'm only shy in person, but not on camera. I feel like the camera is like my superpower. So I have the camera, and I'll literally do anything. Well, maybe not anything, but almost anything. But in person, yeah, it's really funny. I'd even be nervous when I was really young going into stores. I get nervous when I walk in and the shop girls say, "Hi, how are you? Can I help you with anything?" I'm like, just look at them like, leave me alone.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I just get really like in my own world, and but when I'm in a social occasion or an event or I'm filming, I'm the opposite. I don't know why that is.
That's funny.
Because I have naturally both sides. I mean, I was so shy as a little girl. I'm an only child, and I found it really difficult to make friends in that sense, because I just find it difficult to kind of go up to people. But give me a camera and a carpet, and I will yell, shout, and scream and dance to get people over to talk to me for the interviews.
That is funny. Now, go ahead, Dawn.
Oh, you go ahead. It's okay.
No.
But I'll ask.
I was just going to say that I'm kind of the same way. Dawn and I had a discussion about that. Here I am doing these interviews over the phone with how many different people from daytime and prime time and couple film. And yet, if you put me in front of a classroom to talk about something, I cannot do it. I totally freak out.
Yeah.
I can't do it,
No, I understand. Public speaking is hideous. I have to do it a lot for my job. I get hired to host events and moderate panels and like all that kind of thing, and I feel sick. I mean, I literally feel sick. Like, I just like this kind of medium, or but when it's you with a mass audience, like at a film festival or something, really intimidating. Especially a school, that's kids. Kids are intimidating. They'll say anything. They have no filter.
Exactly.
That's so true. So true. They're so brutally honest sometimes. I know, having children myself, it doesn't matter how old they get, they still are, my youngest in particular,